and he really is to blame.
We're at Peña Palace. It's outside Lisbon in Portugal.
They come from here and there, and you and me.
Portugal is Iberian, but not Spain.
And brothers, can't you see? This is not the way we...
Portugal had its own version of the Spanish Inquisition. Portugal, like Spain, had its own fascist dictator.
Put the end to war.
Less than 100 years ago. It had its own links to North African Moorish navigators that enabled Portuguese proper captains to claim the glory, dispelling nonsense like the world is flat, discovering vegetation that was used for agriculture that indigenous peoples had discovered long before, and of course its own slave trade and far-flung colonies. But Spain's, their versions are much more well known. It's easy to see Portugal as the poorer, nicer cousin of the two. And of course I wasn't there, but I'm not really sure we should. Spain's got its own problem with over-tourism and reactions to it, and new laws being implemented to try and solve it. Portugal's over-tourism problem is more few and far between.
And he really is to blame. His orders come from far away no more.
It's ones that drive around empty. Peña Palace might be the jewel of Lisbon, the jewel of Portugal that everyone wants to see. It will be ruined first. It has a reasonable entry fee to the grounds, to the palace, but then there's another entry fee that you pay to go inside the palace, which is also quite reasonable. They want to encourage tourists, they don't want to discourage, do they? But in order to keep these fees low, you would have to have so many people, so many different places, taking up too much space, selling tea and coffee, which was far more popular than soft drinks, beer and food. It would take up too much space and you wouldn't be able to cram the original fee-paying guests in. So there's the time constraint. You can only spend so much time here. And you're made aware of it. There's a sort of a non-verbal push, and then there's also the verbal push to hurry yourself along when you're in any particular room. This can be by the tourists as well as the... I find it unpleasant. I'm sure there's museums in the world where you can pay extra to stand in front of a particular work of art for a limited period of time. But your mind is always on the clock, not on the work. So hey, you've got to have that picture on Instagram, view at Peña Palace. It's fairy tale. That fairy tale princess, she's a street walking sex worker. Industrial scale. Too many people, even in winter. You can't have proper regulation handrails in a historic building, so it's only a matter of time before dangerous selfie taking gets fatal. You wait in a queue for tea and coffee, you wait in a queue to take your photo in one of the cute little guardsman turrets. And I felt so intimidated inside the palace in a hurry, super scurry, but I think I missed part of it. You're just walking up and down a runway, sectioned off with ropes anyway. You're not really experiencing the ballroom space. People do duck and dive out of the way, so you can have mostly a picture of your loved one, and not a picture of their ear hole, I suppose. But everyone can't, and inevitably you have to wonder why you want a picture of those people that you've never spoken to on your mantelpiece, alongside your travel experience like you're family. But your fellow tourists is part of the appeal of such a scenario. The oldest, wealthiest, and most time-pressed of the Americans pay for a private whiz-round. It's probably different in summer. There weren't quite the same number of K-pop there that I was expecting. They always put on their best glad rags and makeup for their selfies, but then so does a lot of the population of Europe now. None of this take me as you find me. The people, like a window dressing on a piece of architecture. But when tourism money doesn't go too deep, the locals are poorer and they don't get the opportunity to go to their own landmarks? Of course they do. That's partly why the price is affordable. The weekend day trippers. Perhaps it was a day when the local glamorous people weren't out, but everyone was nice and polite, especially in the gardens. Much more so in the gardens, I thought. The palace itself, much more of a high-stress selfie environment. Don't get the tuk-tuk or the jeep. Walk up from Sintra through the fascinating hillside. It's a shared experience. People want to talk through that shared experience. You meet people. The road route, you get a native English speaker that's trying to finance their retirement from a college-educated job with something that's beneath them, and they feel hard done by. They've said this speech 1,000 times before, and it just feels tired. It makes you feel tired. It's quite exhilarating boulder scenery, the walk, with a few gangs of mountain climbers to animate the way. Sintra, the very touristy village at the bottom of the hill where everyone gets the ride up to the Peña Palace. It's nice, there is something there. There's intense selling of lunch. There's another palace or two of very different styles. There's every chance when you're visiting Peña Palace that you can start your day late, having a little lie-in or a cuddle, make your way to Sintra. Oh, I'm feeling hungry, let's have something. Have some wine, walk, or wait to get the tuk-tuk or bus. Walk all the way through the grounds, and you've missed the chance to get inside the palace. Last call, last orders. Perhaps they could open it, for longer hours of the day, so it's a nighttime thing. Perhaps I've missed the point, and the sunset is everything. It often is. The sunset takes a long time. There's no guarantee, and in the twilight, other photos are going to be rubbish. I'm not sure if it's really the place where you can just experience its beauty. It's an object, and a poorly maintained object at that almost. It needs painting too often. It's exposed to the Atlantic wind and rain. But that old town, Sintra, is some way up from Sintra, the town where the public transport goes to from Lisbon. So you've got quite a lot of public transport lag between getting from Lisbon to Sintra, new town, if you like, public transport hub, up to Sintra, old town. Then there's getting up from Sintra, old town, to Peña Palace. Then there's getting from the entrance to Peña Palace grounds up to Peña Palace itself. Then you've got another wait to get inside Peña Palace, which is going to be an hour or more because they're half-hour slots. Yes, you're only allowed in for half an hour. There's a fair amount of anticipation to all that, but don't expect too much. It's not Florence, it's not Rome.
This is not the way we...
Over-tourism, excessive tourism. Lisbon is so full that the locals you meet from the main square on the water straight on up, the central tourist mile to the elevator. The locals you even see. There's the tram driver, there's the bus driver, there's someone that works in a shop, the waitress that serves you in the restaurant, and there's the guys that do you want marijuana, hashish, cocaine? And then there's the guys that, where are you from? Do you want hashish, cocaine? Tourism is a shallow economy. The trickle-down effect, it's just not real. It's not deep. I don't know if you're getting real drugs or if you're getting ripped off. But there's an over-tourism backlash in Portugal, just the same as in Spain. Anti-tourism movements are multiplying amongst the world's most visited countries. Authorities are trying to reconcile the interests of locals and what can be a lucrative sector. While the Canary Islands, which were once Portuguese, were built on slavery and later tourism, uncontrolled development harms the environment everywhere. The protest collectives, Canaries Sold Out, began an indefinite hunger strike recently to put pressure on the authorities to defend the treasure. Yeah, small island, 16 million people a year, and 2 million locals, and a lot of those are permanent expat-type residents. Unsustainable tourism, it's partly to do with the method of travel of getting there, but it's destroying the thing that you're admiring. A suicidal growth model. It develops a social revulsion. Sun and beach tourism is perhaps one of the oldest. You see unfriendly graffiti slogans. This used to be my home. Go home have appeared around Malaga. I haven't seen so much obviousness to the extensive graffiti around Lisbon and the beach towns. I think they know they're a poor cousin and they're slightly grateful. There's fake signs, more official looking, around Barcelona and Ibiza and the Balearic Islands. Some popular beaches warning in English of the risk of falling rocks or dangerous jellyfish. You don't really think that Google Maps are politically influenced, but they certainly are. You can have certain bus routes removed from Google Maps, so it lets local people have a seat. Those busy areas can be, throb on your phone there, they can be influenced and manipulated. People head towards that area. It can take people out into the suburbs a little bit. I know I've fallen for it. Busy areas throb even when they're not. We all drink coffee, we all use Airbnb, but it's a menace. Worsening housing shortage and rents soar in town centres. We cause noise and environmental pollution, and taxes resources such as water. There was water all around during the storm of my visit to Lisbon, but Peña Palace didn't miss it. But when it came to drinking the water, I'd dilute my orange juice. The local water, it gave me the squits. Water has to be treated to get to our tap. It has to be in the right place before it can do that. Sustainable tourism. We need to get to non-social revulsion tourism. There's always a tour group in sight, isn't there? Quite often they walk around with an umbrella just to be identified so they don't lose any of their ducklings. Sometimes there's only one tour guide for one couple. That feels most natural. They're the ones that I like to sit and freely listen to. They're often quite enigmatic, educated people that perhaps despair at how little we're interested. Just show us the best restaurants with the best time-out reviews. Oh, Lisbon's time-out market, even in winter, is so packed, it's mental. It really is mental. The only place that I've seen to compare it to, and it's much poorer, is Heathrow Airport's Witherspoon pub. And you need to times the area of that at least by 4. It's really quite the party, where no one knows anyone else and isn't really interested in getting to know anyone else because they're all in their social little clique. After COVID, tourism is back with a vengeance, people are saying. You need to go now, really, while you can. There are towns that are starting to charge non-residents a fee for entering their most popular squares. This is certainly happening in Seville, at the Plaza de España, in Barcelona. The density of people on La Ramblas is nightclub-like. There's a frisson to it. It's exciting. The jeopardy, the danger, the rubbing shoulders with people of, well, that wouldn't really usually give you the time of day. It's good for them. But all over Europe, I don't know if Americans are travelling more than they used to. Perhaps more of them have passports. Government ministers are commentating on this sort of thing. Action needs to be taken to limit the number of tourist flats. But at the same time, they're stressing that the government is aware of the importance of the tourist sector. 12% of some economies. Are you surprised that government ministers sit on the fence and spout both sides? Non-revulsion tourism. Is this where our freedoms got us to? Once the thing that we're visiting is eroded, how is it really different when it's recreated to Las Vegas or the copies in China?
And he really is to blame. He's the universal soldier.